The morning air was brisk in Lexington, Virginia, laced with the scent of dew and fallen leaves, as dawn light crept over the plaza in front of the federal courthouse. The marble steps glistened faintly, still damp from the lingering chill, as a solitary figure approached, her presence calm, deliberate, and powerful in its restraint. She didn't wear a robe, didn't carry an entourage, and yet something about her stride, her poise, whispered authority. Judge Amara Lane adjusted the collar of her navy wool coat, her silver-streaked curls neatly coiled back in a style that echoed grace and command. She carried only a slim leather case and the expression of someone who had walked through too many fires to be unsettled by morning cold. This courthouse, this building of justice and contradiction, had been her professional home for years. She knew its halls, its echoes, its secrets. But on this day, as she approached the security checkpoint, something else awaited her. Inside, the soft hum of a metal detector buzzed, mixing with the murmurs of early arrivals and the clink of keys on security belts. A young guard waved in a few attorneys, barely glancing up. Then came the man she hadn't seen in a while, but remembered all too well, Deputy Travis Mullen. Broad-shouldered, mid-40s, his face weathered by years and ego, he had the look of someone who'd long mistaken authority for importance. When Amara stepped forward, Mullen's eyes narrowed. "Ma'am," he called out, his tone already sharp, step out of line. Amara paused. "Is there a problem, Deputy?" He didn't answer, just looked her over, hair, skin, composure. Something in her calm unsettled him. Maybe it was because she didn't flinch. Maybe it was because she carried herself like she belonged. And in his world, women like her weren't supposed to. "No visible ID," he grunted. "Think you can just walk up in here like some hotshot lawyer?" Amara didn't rise to the bait. She reached into her coat slowly and held out her federal judiciary badge. He didn't even look at it. He snatched it from her hand, slipped it into his pocket. "I'd like that returned," she said coolly. He smirked. "In a hurry, sweetheart." Her face remained neutral, but her eyes sharpened. "I have a courtroom session. I expect to be treated accordingly." "Then you'll follow my procedures," he snapped. "Random checks. Come with me." Before she could speak, he grabbed her arm, not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to assert his dominance, and led her through a side corridor. They passed office doors and echoed footsteps until they reached a room that felt more like an interrogation box than a checkpoint. The door slammed shut behind them. There was a single chair, a metal cart with scanning tools. A pair of clippers sat idle in the corner. "I do not consent to this," Amara stated. "You are detaining me without cause." Mullen folded his arms, the ghost of a smile on his lips. "You're acting suspicious." She didn't sit. She didn't move. Two other officers entered behind her, one tall, nervous, the other younger, eyes darting. "What's going on here?" she demanded loud now. But no one answered. Mullen picked up the clippers and flicked the switch. The low buzz filled the air like a threat. "You could be hiding something in that curly little mop," he said. She tried to step back. The younger officer pushed her forward. Amara clenched her fists, lowered herself into the chair, and sat still as the blades touched her scalp. She didn't cry out. She didn't fight. But with each stroke, something was stripped: her dignity, her history, her silent pride. Thick coils fell to the floor, silent witnesses to the violence of humiliation. "She looks better already," one officer muttered. "Now you look like someone who knows her place," Mullen sneered. Amara's voice, when it came, was steel. "You will regret this." He chuckled. "They always say that." She stood, retrieved her badge from his desk, and walked out. But with each click of her heels, the temperature of the world shifted. Because Mullen didn't know who she was. Not yet. 10 minutes later, in courtroom 4C, Travis Mullen stood in the back, arms folded, ready to keep order. Until he saw her walk in. Until he saw her reach the bench. Until she picked up the robe she had left folded the night before and wrapped it over her shoulders like a battle flag. Until she sat in the judge's seat. And then the silence that followed was deafening. The courtroom packed with press, civil rights attorneys, police defendants, and spectators had gone breathless. The woman they had watched be led away, head bowed, hair shorn, had returned not as a victim, but as the one holding the gavel. Amara Lane, United States District Judge. Court was now in session. As testimony unfolded in a case against Lexington P. allegations of brutality, false arrests, racially biased policing, Amara sat composed. Her notes precise. Her voice clear. Witnesses spoke of being slammed into concrete, denied medical care, arrested for recording on their phones. Amara asked sharp questions. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence was louder than shouting. At the recess, with only court staff remaining, she called out, "Deputy Mullen, step forward." He hesitated. She waited. He approached slowly, eyes flicking between the bailiffs, uncertain now. "State your full name for the record." Travis Mullen." "How long have you worked here?" 18 years. She paused. "And in those 18 years, how many black women have you pulled from line, harassed, violated under the guise of random checks?" He stammered. "I didn't know you were." "If I hadn't been a judge," she cut in, "what would have happened to me today?" He had no answer. She continued, voice unwavering. "There are 12 complaints against you in this building. Buried. Ignored. Until now." She stood. "You are hereby suspended, effective immediately. You will be escorted in handcuffs. Federal charges are forthcoming." He tried to protest, but the cuffs snapped shut. He left the way he brought her in without dignity, without power. No one clapped. No one jeered. But everything had changed. By mid-afternoon, federal agents arrived. The Civil Rights Division had launched an inquiry. Videos of Amara walking into the courtroom had gone viral. Not just for the shock, but for the silence, the fury behind her calm. That evening, Amara sat in her office. She didn't wear her robe. Her scalp still ached, but her mind was clear. There was a knock. Reverend Elijah Kane, a longtime friend and activist, entered with a list of names, victims ready to speak, witnesses who had stayed silent for years. "You broke it open," he told her. "They're ready." She read their stories. One note said, "He made me take off my hijab." Another, 2009. "My son, still paying the hospital bill." The next day, she returned to the bench without her robe. She wore a plain black blouse, her scalp bare, her eyes steely. "This courtroom," she said, "has endured injustice not only in the cases it tried, but in its silence. That ends now." She announced the Lane mandate, mandatory training, public reporting systems, psychological evaluations, accountability measures. She named it not after herself, but after what the system tried to erase. "This is not vengeance," she said. "It's responsibility." And the room stood not for tradition, but for her. A week later, Mullen stood before her again, this time in an orange jumpsuit. She sentenced him under federal law. Abuse of power, violation of civil rights, obstruction of justice. "But this," she said, "isn't about your punishment. It's about the people you silenced. You no longer get to decide who belongs." As he was led away, the room stayed silent. But the silence had changed. It was no longer fear. It was resolve. By the month's end, the reforms spread to neighboring districts. The Senate Judiciary Committee held hearings. The DOJ began investigating other courthouses. And every morning, as Amara Lane walked through the courthouse, heads lifted. Ishmet Hirsch. Not because of her title, but because of what she had survived and what she had rebuilt. No longer a symbol of the system. She had become its reckoning.